This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by... If it's breakfast, brunch, or lunch you need, Les Cafe is the place to go, indeed. Open 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 days a week. Les Cafe Pancake House, located in Highland, Indiana on Highway Avenue. Les Cafe, where less is more.
Hello, welcome to our show, and we have a guest on the phone with us, Greg Renz, who is a retired Milwaukee fireman, as well as a inductee into the Fire and Police Hall of Fame. He is also the author of Beneath the Flames. Greg, welcome to our show.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on. Looking forward to it.
Great. Well, why don't you tell us a bit about your career and as a fireman, and then also your induction into the Hall of Fame, and then finally just talk to us a bit about your book.
Okay. Yeah, I was a firefighter in Milwaukee for 28 years, and obviously over 28 years you accumulate a lot of stories and material, and I worked with a lot of really colorful characters over the years. And back in those days, we kind of worked all over the city because you got reassigned every couple of years to a different portion of the city. So you really got to know the city well, and also a lot of the other firefighters well, which I thought was actually a nice way to go. One of the things about, I think, the fire service is that, especially when you're working at a really, really busy house, the upside to that is that you're making a huge difference in people's lives, probably at the very, very worst day of their lives. And that may be also the downside, because now you have to, as a firefighter, process all of that and hopefully not let it dwell deep inside of you. And so fortunately, toward the end of my career, I was involved in the rescue of two little boys from their burning basement. And that led to the induction into the Fire and Police Hall of Fame. And if you'd like, I could give you a short version of that story. It's actually a pretty heart-wrenching story, I think.
Oh, we'd love
Sure,
to hear it.
Definitely.
Okay, so this would have been 2004. I was the captain of Engine 24 in Milwaukee, a Northside company, busy company. 2 o'clock in the morning, we got a call for a report of fire in the area of North 67th Street. Now, that's a busy firehouse, so we get a lot of fire calls during the day, so we don't get all that excited, but we take a lot of pride getting out of the firehouse, so we jump into our turnout gear, and we're on the rig and out of the barn, the firehouse, in under a minute. We're flying down Capitol Drive. It's going to be a runway to North 67th Street. Now, it's sleeting out, so we got to take it a little bit easy. We're slipping and sliding. I have a veteran driver, which is nice to have on nights like that, and 2 veteran firefighters. About half the way there, the dispatcher comes on the rig radio and informs us, Engine 24, be advised, we have multiple reports of smoke in the area. Now we know we have a pretty good-sized fire if people are calling in at 2 in the morning. Just a short time later, they come back on, the dispatcher comes back in the rig radio and informs us, Engine 24, be advised, we have a report of 2 children trapped in that burning basement. Well, now the adrenaline kicks in. Now I got to start thinking, what are we going to do when we get there? How are we going to attack this? How are we going to go about rescuing those boys? So I really have to start focusing on what we're going to do as soon as we get on scene. And the thing about that is we have to make split-second decisions on what we're going to do with very little information normally. So we turn on to North 67th Street. The entire street is loaded with smoke. We really can't tell which house is on fire. And as we edge down the street, we get to about the middle of the street, and my driver says, boss, I think it should be right around in here somewhere. Well, this lady came running out of the mist, running up to the rig, and right behind us was Chief Jones. He was there, and the lady was screaming and hollering, please get those boys out. So I ran to the back of the house with her, and Chief Jones got some information, said, I think they're going to be right at the foot of the stairs. And thing is, when we got to the back of the house, my stomach clenched because it was thick, black, gray smoke just flowing out of that back door, gushing out of the back door, and I didn't think those boys had a chance down there. And the lady just hollered out. They were just hollering for help right before you got here. Please, 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 can you get them? Don't let them die. Get down here, please. So first rule of firefighting is normally we never go into a burning building alone. That's number one, and we like to have a hose line with us to protect ourselves from the fire. Well, my crew was busy laying out a hose line, and I was at the back by myself with Chief Jones, and I just decided, if those boys had a chance, any chance at all, I had to get down there right now and get them out. So I dove down the stairs, got to the bottom of the stairs, and thought they were going to be right off to the right. That's what Chief Jones had told me, and I was sweeping around the floor, but I did find them, and but I wasn't going to go back up and wait for a partner to go down, so I'd never be able to live with myself. So anyway, I'm going to start a search and rescue pattern. We trained in that extensively in pitch black atmospheres, which this was. I couldn't see a thing down there. And before, I felt like I was going all the way across the basement. I came to a bed, which is a good thing because children will hide under beds and under sheets and stuff. They panic. So
Absolutely.
I'm rifling through the bed, flipping the mattress over, still nothing there. Now I'm getting pretty busy with hope that they're going to find them. But the front of the bed felt like a pile of clothes. So I started rifling through that pile of clothes, picked through the clothes, and I found what felt like a large rag doll. Pulled the rag doll up to my face piece and realized, oh gosh, it's one of the boys. He's limp, lifeless. I'm sure he's gone. There's no way he could survive down there. So I heard a crew coming down the stairwell and made my way back there, and we got the boy outside. I went back to made my way back to the foot of the bed, rifled some more, and found the smaller boy, and he was lifeless also, just like a rag doll. Found my way back to the stairwell again, and we got him out, and then we still had a fire to fight, and we had to check the basement, make sure there was no other occupants. We don't always get great information. So we knocked the fire down, did our overhaul, and about 45 minutes later, the smoke cleared, and this is where I know what I'm going to see when I get to that side yard. There's going to be two little bundles covered by bright yellow plastic sheets. The medical examiner is going to be there taking information. The police are going to be there taking information from the family members. The family members are just, when they ask, well, what was it like that night? Well, I was just doing my job. Well, the chief that was on scene here, Tom Jones, told me, I don't want you getting up and just saying you were doing your job. This is too good a story. You need to tell the whole story. So, and during the induction ceremony and another ceremony in Milwaukee, the fire department put on, as I'm telling the story, I'm realizing just the power of storytelling, because I'm feeling this, and I think in Milwaukee we had like 200 people there, and I'm feeling this emotion coming back to me as I'm telling the story. And I'm just getting really wrapped up in the emotional impact this is having. And I'm looking out over the crowd, and I'm seeing tears coming down people's faces. And it was then I believe that the seed to become a writer later on was planted, because I realized, wow, look at the power of storytelling and how it's affecting people. And I thought, gosh, if I could learn how to do that on the page, what an amazing thing that would be able to do. And so, and really, we do a lot of storytelling in the job. It's part of the culture of the fire department. So when we're downtime, we entertain each other. So I was fortunate. I worked with some of the best storytellers you can imagine. So I learned from them how to tell a story, hopefully, and was able to use that later on in my writing career.
Well, in this story, you came back with 2 fish, and thankfully they were safe. And
absolutely. I could add just a touch to that too. The denouement is that this last year, now everybody always asks, whatever happened to those 2 little boys? And we normally don't bother people or follow up with that. They go on with their lives, we go on with our work. But so many people had asked about the 2 boys that thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get a hold of their mom. And I found her on Facebook and sent her a private message, and I just said, over the years I've just been thinking about the boys. I just wonder how they're doing. I went on and on a little bit, and she immediately instant messaged me back and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you found me." And she said, "I'm in tears reading your note. This is just amazing." And she said, then she informed me that the oldest boy was living in Texas. The younger boy was a senior at Homestead High School, both doing wonderful. And as I'm reading her note, now I've got tears going down my eyes, because these 2 little boys who were that close to death, had I not found them, as fast as I did, and I should add that those boys were out of that basement in probably about a minute, which is beyond miraculous anyway.
Right.
And, I'm just, any more time in that toxic atmosphere, they probably don't make it, or they're in a nursing home the rest of their life. So how close all of that came. And, here they are, grown men, and living their lives. Just a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is a amazing, heartfelt story that I'm sitting here just shivering thinking about it. Just trying to imagine being a parent of those boys and feeling the gratefulness. And
this was right before Christmas too. I think we actually had the family over on Christmas Eve day. So had those boys not made it, that poor mom would have had Christmas without her boys.
Now, did you treat them to one of the famous Firehouse meals?
Oh, absolutely. We eat like kids. Everybody then goes,
yeah.
Throw that in there.
Yeah. Well, you guys are known for your meals. I tell you what. So, yeah. And a lot of it, you probably use the excuse, well, we're going to sweat this off somewhere along the line, right?
Yeah, you do it. Which, it's one of those things where you might not have any work in a day, and then another day you might be rocking and rolling all day long. So,
right.
As you said earlier, you just never know what your day is going to be like.
So,
which I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah.
Most jobs you go to, you kind of know what you're going to do most of the day. Not this job.
So, is the book, again, just restate, is the book really a telling of your career and your experience as a fireman, or does it surround this story or other stories, or how?
It's a novel, so it's based upon my experiences, but I had to, obviously you change scenes up when you write fiction, you change scenes, you change characters. Characters are compilations of people you worked with, and should add that the fire service tends to attract very, very colorful characters, and I'm being really nice with that because we do crazy stuff.
Oh, I've known a couple of Chicago firemen, and you do not have to tell me. Those boys, tell you what.
You know very well then.
Oh, yeah.
So when I retired, retired 11 years ago, and that's when I first thought, I've got all these stories and all of these characters, and I worked in the inner city for quite a few years. Maybe I'd like to write a novel, because I'd done a lot of reading, and I read bestsellers, and I thought, you know what, that doesn't even look that hard. How hard could it be? Here we are, 10 years later, and the book just got published on May 31st. So it took years of creative writing courses, workshops, conferences, and, countless revisions. I think the first chapter was rewritten close to 50 times.
Oh, wow.
Just over and over and over again, trying to make this thing resonate and work. And, and then, of course, when you get into the writing, I had some wonderful, wonderful instructors at the University of Wisconsin, Madison here, who, when I first submitted some work to them, the work came back all marked up. Greg, you really need to work on your grammar, punctuation, syntax, your point of views all over the place. But gosh, these stories are great. Please keep writing.
Oh, very nice.
So I did. I persevered and kept pushing and started winning writing contests. And then when we got to the point where I wanted to publish the novel, I sent it out into the world to the New York agents, 90 of whom rejected me. And I did receive offers of representation from two, but one was a really high-powered agent who had signed numerous six-figure deals, movie deals, you name it. So I thought, here we go. This is it. I'm there. I'm there. But then we started talking about his vision for the story, and that was totally different from the story I wrote. I really wrote a hero's journey where my protagonist starts out on the farm and experiences a horrible situation, and then he joins the fire department in the inner city, and that's the special world, and then he comes back. So anyway, he wanted me to get rid of all the farm stuff, which, now that I'm getting reviews, are some of the scenes my readers and even some of the professional agents who supplied blurbs loved. So, vindication, I turned the guy down. In the end, I turned this agent down, which a lot of other writers go, you turned down a New York agent? But you know what? He just didn't have the vision for the story. I didn't care how much money he could offer me. after 10 years of working on this, I loved the story by this time, and I was not going to change it.
That's right. You have a personal investment in it, and you want it to be the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my mentor at the University of Wisconsin suggested, she said, well, if you get tired of querying agents, she said, I know a publisher in Milwaukee who would be thrilled to publish your novel.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay, sure, I'd like to check that out. And so she sent a recommendation down there, and I sent an email down and asked, okay, so are you interested? And she says, well, I'm really not signing any more authors. She got a full load of authors right now. But she said, go ahead and send the manuscript anyway, since Christine, my coach, recommended me. A week later, she got a hold of me and said, I love it. I want to publish it. We signed a traditional publishing contract and worked together for a couple months, just honing a few things. And suggestions she had, things I had, we really worked together to come up with a finished project. And I was never hesitant to edit or change things. I mean, I had 4 professional editors I worked with over the years. So it wasn't like when that agent suggested I do something that I'm against editing and changing. I'm all for it, and I'm glad to do it if it makes sense to me. So anyway, this owner of the publishing house worked with me, and we got the book in good shape, and then I sent it out into the world for advanced reviews. And now this is where the stress sets in, because you start wondering, okay, 10 years of my life was spent on this. I've been getting a lot of positive, over-the-top reviews from, my writing coach and readers who I asked to read the manuscript and give me feedback. So I was getting a lot of that, but still deep down inside I was wondering, really, is it any good? And so it went out to Kirkus, and Kirkus is a review agency that can be brutal if they don't think the writing's up to par or the story's up to par. They can rip you apart. I also sent it out to Jacqueline Michard, the author of Deep End of the Ocean, Oprah Winfrey's very first book club pick, Nicholas Butler, and probably close to 35 or 40 others.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, and then they started coming in. And the one I worried about, as I said, was Kirkus. When that came in and I saw that they were raving about the book and over the top, it was like, what a relief. Okay. And Jacqueline Michard, she loved it, gave me a beautiful blurb, Nicholas Butler also. So I got all these blurbs coming in, and that's the validation I needed to realize, you know what, it's a pretty damn good book.
You are an author, that's right.
Yes, exactly.
So if our listeners are interested in finding this book and reading it, how do they go about doing that?
Well, if they would like a signed copy, they go to my website, and that would be glrenz.com.
Okay.
It's also available on Amazon, and it's available in hardcover, softcover, and ebook.
Okay.
And we have a voiceover actor working on the audiobook right now. So
wonderful.
Down the road, that will be available too, because I guess there's a lot of people that really enjoy the audio versions of books.
Oh, that's great.
You know who I'm thinking to be a good voiceover actor is the guy on Chicago Fire, the guy that has a real thick Chicago accent.
Yeah, except this is not a Chicago firefighter.
I know, but I'm just saying. Yeah, and by the way, just a little offshoot. What is your opinion about Chicago Fire?
Chicago Fire, I enjoy it. It looks like they have some really good consultants on that show, because I taught Jaws of Life extrications, and when they have those on there, boy, they're right on with the way they're going about things.
It's one of my favorite shows. So
it is.
I'm glad you like it too.
Oh, good. I mean, it's kind of watered down. It's a television thing. So my book goes much deeper into some of the like the PTSD, especially, and some of the the coarse things that go on behind the doors of an inner city firehouse.
Absolutely.
I get right down to it, and so if you want something that's pushed to the reality, basically, all the firefighters
and really in depth with all the information.
Yeah.
And it's
intimate detail, definitely.
You have to feel in a way that it is kind of feels good to have a program out there like that does tell the story, although it may be modified for the TV audience. But it goes on to reinforce what you guys go through.
That's right.
Sure. And I think, a show like that creates interest in the fire service, which is great too. And there's not a lot of novels based on firefighting. There's a lot of nonfiction books
Right.
on firefighting,
Sure.
from like 9/11 and people's experiences in New York and, in some of the major companies. But it's really hard to find a novel about firefighting. So it's just kind of a unique niche that I just entered into. And so far, everybody has been reading it. Well, let me tell you, it's like some of the firefighters who have read it, and not only firefighters are reading it, but I'm definitely want their opinion, because if I screwed something up, I know they would be my super critics.
Exactly. They'll let you know.
Oh, absolutely. So, as people are buying the book and reading it, what I'm hearing back is the chief that was at this fire, he wrote a nice foreword for me for this book, and in it he says, the last fictional book I read was in the 5th grade, and he named it. He said, when I read this book, it really opened my eyes to basically a fiction again. He just loved it. And I'm hearing from others who haven't read books since high school who are reading this thing cover to cover in one sitting.
Oh, great.
In 2 days, awesome. Where they just say, I cannot put this down. It's my gosh. And, a lot of that has to do with, the work I put into learning the craft, because we really have to structure a novel properly for people to keep turning the page. What I use is called microfiction and microtension, and Donald Moss talks about that, where people, what's going on the page right in front of you right now that causes the reader to turn the page. Not necessarily what's happening in the overall plot, but right now in front of your eyes that you cannot put that book down. You got to turn the page. So every page I'm looking for something, a little something to add to the tension to make the reader turn the page. So I worked really, really hard on that. It looks like it's paying dividends now.
Oh, that's great.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to get a copy of it myself. I think I'm going to jump on Amazon and go ahead and get a copy.
Great.
Now, which leads me to my next question, because I know you have some book signing engagements
Yes.
And was I correct? One of them is in Chicago?
Yes, actually, next Tuesday, July 23rd, I'm going to be at Roscoe Books in Roscoe Village.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping some of the Chicago firefighting brothers and sisters might turn out.
That would be
stories.
great.
I'd love to hear their stories too.
Sure.
You never know, they could be filming the episode of Chicago Fire.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You get one of those guys to come in. One of the things about Chicago Fire my only disappointment is the guy that evidently they put on there because he has the heaviest Chicago accent, but yet he's a New Yorker. That just crushed me. Yeah, he's New York. I mean, really, seriously.
We spent some time in the Chicago area, though.
You could tell. You to hit that accent, then everyone can hit that accent. It takes forever to learn how to pronounce the word car. Get in the car.
Well, that's what you'll see in my book too, is the Milwaukee Southside Polish accents.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very prominent.
Regional dialect.
Oh, that dialect, yeah. It's somewhat thick at times, and I kind of went against some of the editors too. They said, be careful with dialect, because sometimes it's over the top, and this isn't. I mean, everybody that's read it said, no, this was spot on. So
there you go.
Some of the editors don't use any dialect at all, and I thought, well, where does the realism come from?
Absolutely.
The way people actually talk in the inner city.
Sure.
So, you got the contrast between my young farmer, the way they talk in the farm, and the inner city culture of the inner city, and then the south side Polish type dialect. So
absolutely.
There's quite a contrast in there with all
those.
You know what I should add too, with what I'm getting back from a lot of the firefighters is it's really resonating. PTSD is theme in the book. It's not a major theme in the book, but that's the thing that seems to really be resonating with a lot of firefighters. And I'm going to read you a short note I just got this week from a retired fire captain from Milwaukee.
Oh, yes.
Just rocked my world. Just because you never know what's going on in people's heads. And PTSD is a real thing. I've lost quite a few, I think 7 friends to suicide over the years. So anyway, he sent me this note after reading the book. I shed tears reading this book, but your ending really blew me away. A powerful book for anyone. It was especially powerful for me, and I think will be likewise for our brothers and sisters in the fire service. I appreciate how your story presents the topic of PTSD. I had a tough time near the end of my career. Once I accepted and understood my own pain, I started seeing it in the eyes of our most senior guys. It continues to be a challenge for me. Your story has been serious therapy, and like therapy, it's not always easy, but healing. The themes of risk, loss, and redemption are universal, but they apply to the stories of firefighters everywhere. They strike deep chords in me. You handle these themes with the touch of a veteran writer. As I pass the unlikely landmarks only we firefighters need, I think of problems that will never be solved. The vacant lots where we risked it all in a house fire. Alleys that were the scenes of murders. Homes of suicides. And intersections where we pried bodies from cars. The scenes of so many calls where we met the devil in the dark. We carry that darkness in a corner of our hearts. Your book helps open a window to that corner, letting the light of day disinfect and heal us. So, like your image of leaves in a flowing stream suggests, there's hope. Things to acknowledge and let go of. Thanks. I know this book will be both appreciated by and good for the fire service. I think will give civilians real insight into the weights so many of us carry. So that's the validation I
Oh gosh, yeah. If nothing else came from it, that's amazing.
That is real accreditation to receive a note like that from a fellow firefighter.
Yeah.
Just reinstating all your experiences. And I've heard this from a Chicago firefighter that, he was retiring early. And he goes, Bill, one thing, even though I'm looking forward to retirement, thing I'm not looking forward to is sometimes that alarm will never go off. And it will never stop going off. And
never stop going off. Sure,
yeah,
sure.
and I heard that, and it just gosh, really, people also are worried about our veterans as they come back, but they often forget about what you guys go through is just as grueling. Maybe you're not getting shot at all the time, but in that moment where you're entering into a 4-alarm fire and have to worry about who you got to pull out and are they going to survive, are they not? Oh my gosh, that is, again, our hats are off to you guys for what you go through, and you're heroes, because I know in the municipalities, they don't necessarily pay you guys the best, but my golly, you deserve every cent and more. So.
Well, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Since this has only was published May 31st, so all of a sudden, I'm going to some of these fire department functions, and people are coming up to me and talking about their own things that they've experienced. I did one old hard-ass firefighter come up to me and tell me, "I hate you. I read your book and you made me cry."
Oh.
And he went on to share some of his, his memories. And gosh, I'll tell you what, some of the memories some of these guys are sharing. This one firefighter said he's been on the scene of over 90 fire fatalities.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that? 90 deaths. And one was a house full of people. I think he said there was like 14 people. And when they were in there, they were finding one dead person after another and taking them out to the lawn and just
heartbreaking.
lining them up next to each other. And then another one was a mother draped over her little child, trying to protect the child from the fire. And these are things that really stick in your head.
Oh, absolutely.
And so anyway, it looks like I really didn't expect that aspect of the book to resonate quite like that. And I'm so happy it has. I'm
absolutely.
glad you read it and telling me that I really did need to bring up these memories instead of burying them and get out and talk about them a little more.
Well, they're so helpful, not only to firemen, but people that have been even remotely connected to a fire. And I was once, although, no one really died, thank goodness, but it was a disastrous fire where the business burnt down to the ground, literally.
Oh gotcha.
And, and the people who own that business grieved over the loss, and, and there's things like that don't necessarily involve life, but it's again, tragedy always happens in the industry. So, but listen, Greg, we're going to probably have to start wrapping up here pretty soon. But why don't you, before we wrap up, why don't you give us a list of places you're going to be, and we'll also make sure that when we upload the video that we'll go ahead and put those in with the video. But why don't you tell folks some places where you're going to be for book signings?
Okay, let me see. Gotta think. Oh, okay. So most of these are going to be in Wisconsin. The only time I'm in Chicago is at Roscoe Books, and that's.
Well, this may shock you, Greg, but we
have
do
Wisconsin
have
listeners.
I've got a cousin up there, and although we often wonder why, because we're hardbound Bears fans, but in fact, I think that's why they're listening to us. I don't know. So
Okay, well,
some closet Bears fans up in Wisconsin. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, excellent. So I have a few here, and you know what? So actually, this evening I'm going to be in Milwaukee at the Fire Historical Museum. It's at Old Engine 25 on South 84th Street, right off the
Nice.
interstate. And let's see, and then Saturday I'm going to be in Waterloo at Paradiddle's Cafe and Coffee Shop.
What a great name, Paradiddles.
Yeah, from 2 till 4, I'll be there. And then on July 22, next Monday, I'll be at the DeForest Library at 6:30. And then on Tuesday, July 23rd, as I said, I'll be down at Roscoe's in Chicago at 7 o'clock.
Perfect.
I can always get that. Yeah.
Well, do us a favor. If you ever have anything in the Northwest Indiana or Chicago area again,
let us know.
Send me an email, and we'll be glad to maybe meet up with you this time.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes,
We'd love that.
In fact, my publicist has quite a few connections down in Chicago, and I guess there's quite a few bookstores down there.
Oh, yes, there are. Quite a few.
Yeah.
So
Well-
I think I will be getting down that way.
All right, cool.
Great.
We'd love to have you in person. But Greg, we tell you what, our show kind of specializes in covering people, young son hero of the community, people who do things for the community that just walk a life they don't expect credit. But we like being the voice of those people, and we enjoy being your voice today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys for what you're doing. I mean, that's great work, no doubt.
Thanks.
Greg, we wish you the best, and we hope to be in touch with you soon.
Absolutely.
And good luck at your book signings, and I'm looking forward to getting your book from Amazon.
Oh, wonderful. Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And goodbye. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. All right.
Bye.
This episode of The Bill and Callie Show is brought to you by... If it's breakfast, brunch, or lunch you need, Les Cafe is the place to go, indeed. Open 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. 7 days a week. Les Cafe Pancake House, located in Highland, Indiana on Highway Avenue. Les Cafe, where less is more.